What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and the election made just about everything we used to enjoy in escapism a little worse this year. Whether it was your favorite streamer being forced to talk politics, whether it was your favorite musician or Hollywood actor, or your favorite brand, or your favorite video game developer, or your favorite YouTuber. Invariably, content creators and areas of escape have become tainted, have become part of the activism machine, have become political tools. We saw this with Fortnite having the cringy no malarkey stuff. We had Animal Crossing with a Joe Biden thing in it. I mean, I would have thought that Nintendo would have stayed away from like the political side of things, but they didn't. And they instead were willing to take that money. Now, Epic Games, Chinese mostly owned, or just under, happy to take Joe Biden money. Why? Well, because they want Joe Biden to win. But I thought, even something simple as Bob and Sally, the internet just simply could not handle. There's essentially a cartoon that was said, and this is true, right? This is Bob. He votes Republican. This is Bob, friend Sally. She votes Democrat. Bob and Sally are still friends because Bob and Sally are both adults. Be like Bob and Sally. This is absolutely a reasonable take, right? And this is how real adults handle things. But they couldn't even handle the cartoon. This has barely received any positive feedback, especially on the eves of this year's controversial election. This is Bob. Bob is complicit in the acts of oppression. This is Sally. Sally cares about other people, but Sally doesn't understand why she and Bob have incompatible values, and she isn't willing to acknowledge that or really stand up to Bob. Don't be like Bob and Sally. Or how about this one? This is Bob. He votes Republican. This is Bob's friend, Sally. She votes Democrat. Bob and Sally are polite to each other at cocktail parties because Bob and Sally understand, regardless of who wins, their material well-being won't change. Bob and Sally are rich. Eat the rich. Again, I don't, look, this is one thing that I have tried to echo, and really my viewers are pretty smart. They get this. By the way, if you haven't yet subscribed, there's a red subscribe button down below. Make today the day you subscribe. And if you don't have a YouTube account, it takes like 2 seconds to make one. If you don't want to use your main email address, I know you all have a spam account. Use that one. Subscribe. Help the channel out. If you look back, depending on how old you are, right? If you look back over the last 12 years, times change, yes, of course. But if you go back just 4.5 years, okay, just as an exercise, when Obama was president, and to be clear, I voted for the guy, but I never thought he was like the perfect president like these weird worship people did. Was your day-to-day life really that different? Some people certainly. But my point is that in 24 hours, there will either President Trump will remain president or Joe Biden will win. And then in 72 hours, all of us will have the same responsibilities. I'll still have to take my dog out 10 times a day to go potty. I'm still going to have to go to work. I'm still going to have to make 7 or 8 videos a day for my YouTube channel. I'm still going to have to go work for my ad agency. I'm still going to have to mow my lawn. I'm still going to have to take the trash out. None of this changes. These are the things that really fill up most people's days, okay? The idea that, you would separate your family, you would lose your family or friends over this is extraordinarily short-sighted and selfish. The idea that it's some sort of privilege to not be melting down in the streets on your $800 iPhone making TikToks about the election is absurd. Most Americans are more worried about getting their next meal or paying their mortgage or paying their rent than being political activists. I saw this. Look, I uploaded a video yesterday about how I was voting, and about 600 people unsubscribed. I'm sure not all of them just couldn't handle the fact that how I was voting. I'm sure some of them just didn't like the idea I was talking about anything about the election, which I understand. People are over it. I, for one, am 100% over all the political ads and all this garbage. It just needs to go away. But I'm not going to lose family or friends over this. If you look at, where's this other post I wanted to have? Oh, I didn't. There was some post, I must have lost it, about how like husbands and wives were going at it because of the election, and you're not my mother anymore, I think it was, at some point. Why? Let me see. I think it was you're not my mother anymore, something like that. I don't know. It's just, look, people who are weird about politics and can't possibly fathom a world where maybe you just talk about something benign with your family are probably some of the most toxic, awful people on the planet. Just look at this article that The Verge put out, right? How The Verge is coping with election anxiety. Here's how adults cope with election anxiety. They don't. They take a 45-minute lunch break to quick get their vote in, and then they go back to work. Or if you're like me, you voted early, you still got to work all day. The idea, the privilege of being able to hide under your desk, anxious. Look, you cast your vote. There's literally nothing else you can do. You can cast your vote. You can try to tell your friends to cast their votes. You can try to get involved in various ways that way. But ultimately, you cast your vote, and that's most of all the power you have. If you just look at these people, I'm coping with the election by making granola, cleaning my kitchen, and building Lego sets with my son. It sounds awfully privileged. My partner and I just had a stressful and prolonged move into a new apartment, so luckily I've had other stressors to distract me. I'm coping with the election by eating cake for dinner and listening to Swedish metal music. My election anxiety consists of me doing a lot of gaming. These are people that write for The Verge. How am I coping with my election anxiety? Not well. I don't understand. I mean, imagine being this fragile. And then you look at how the 2020 election turned fandom into activism and politicians into, quote, influencers. Well, politicians were always influencers. With one off-the-cuff tweet last month, AOC proved how much politics changed throughout the 2020 election. Anyone want to play Among Us with me on Twitch to get out and vote? I never played it, but it looks like a lot of fun. Let's be clear. The AOC thing was a political stunt, and a hand-selected group of openly left-leaning Twitch creators participated in it. This was one of those get out and vote for my guy events. It's just like when a Hollywood celebrity says, get out and vote. You know what they really mean. They mean, get out and vote for my guy or girl. And then you see the energy was also on display when Senator Ed Markey's primary campaign early on. He was an older politician who had worked as a legislator on Capitol Hill and was sagging in the polls against a younger opponent, Joe Kennedy. But once the Democratic primary settled and Biden was a clear nominee, progressive supporters of candidates like Sanders and Elizabeth Warren started organizing for Markey, a co-author of the AOC championed Green New Deal. Supporters made thousands of calls in Zoom photo banks where they listened to music and celebrated successful conversations with voters. They made memes about everything from Markey's shoes to his obvious Boston accent. They created a decades-old campaign ad in Minecraft. And September 1st, Markey won his primary. Fandom not only came out to support candidates, but also worked to hinder rivals. Hundreds of teenage K-pop fans came together in June across platforms like Twitter and TikTok to place reservations for phony online RSVPs for a Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This elaborate troll exaggerated the Trump campaign's projected attendance number. Yeah, except he still had 55,000 people show up in Pennsylvania. And if they had done this to Joe Biden, the article wouldn't be talking about it favorably. In this election, millennial and Gen Z voters are expected to turn out to the polls in record numbers. And it was many of these voters who showed up for AOC, Markey, and Sanders. The Biden team recognized this and made strides in its own digital organizing, from collaborating with the celebrity video app Cameo and influencers for fundraising and content engaging with voters, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Fortnite. It was something even down ballot races took notice of. The fandom first approach isn't limited to AOC and will have more profound effects than pundits realize. Well, let me tell you what this really means. You can expect more of the areas that you truly enjoy to be invaded by political ads and political pandering, which is why many of the video games I'm leaning towards nowadays are of the retro variety. I built a retro arcade machine out of an arcade one-up machine and was playing Kung Fu the other night and Burger Time and NBA Jam. And you know what? I didn't see any political ads in those. Just me, John Stockton draining threes. Ultimately, this means that the next election in 2024 is going to be full on Twitch e-commerce or e-influencer cringe. And I suppose we'll find out what kind of effect it really had. If millennial and Gen Zs are really out in the numbers that they say they are, then you'd think Joe Biden is going to win in a landslide. And if he does, I would expect to see more of the same in 2024, which to me really sucks because escapism is something that's rated very highly for me. Call me privileged. I don't care. Everybody likes to play video games regardless of your level of income or the level of your privilege, and nobody wants to see political ads in it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Think about that, NBA, and your historically low ratings, and we'll talk to you again real soon.